is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the I am, and on his law doth he meditate day and night. He shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, that bringeth forth his fruit in his season. His leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. And also, let's go to the book of Oshay, or aka Joshua, chapter 1 and verse 8. And this book of the law shall not depart out of thy mouth, but thou shalt meditate therein day and night, that thou mayest observe to do according to all that is written therein. For then thou shalt make thy way prosperous, and then thou shalt have good success. Yes, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm Mr. Clay, and we're in the law. Yes, we're in the law on this beautiful Sabbath day. Yes, this is a Sabbath day. Not only is the Sabbath day, it's the day before the Passover. See, many of you follow after the heathen way of the Sabbath. The Ashkenazis are not Israelites. The Sabbath is done after nature. God created the sun and the moon that man may know to number his days. Not only the days of his life, but the days of what? What days God have presented to you to observe things that he requires of his people, even the children of Jacob. God have chosen you. And the only way we can really reap the benefits of the Most High is do those things required of us as being those that are chosen. Else, it could turn out that the promises of the Most High are always conditional. Thou shalt have good success. We're in also Exodus chapter 23. Exodus chapter 23. Excuse me. And you have to realize the law is one that was given to the children of Jacob as he went into the land. The law existed in part ever since the creation of Adam and the creation of Eve. We often say that, I often say, if you really analyze the whole thing, that Adam loved Eve more than he loved God. See, your love can be the downfall of you, man or woman. If you love something more than you love, or you believe, or you trust something, or what, this is the cause of all idolatry. It's to see something and think it's better than what you have. So therefore, we have to always be to the point of where we consider what pleases our God and consider that there is no other way beside him. The law is the way, the truth, and the life. See, they took that and put it in the New Testament. No, Jesus is not the way, the truth, and the life. It's the law. Jesus didn't speak to you the whole law. He did not quote the law to you. Many of you don't even know the law. Those of you who say you are Christians, and even some Israelites don't even know the law. You only regurgitate whatever you can glean out of your camp meetings. So therefore, he said, if you're going to have good success, if you will meditate on the law, you will meditate on those things that please the one who have chosen your father, even Jacob. And if you are one that have walk into the blessings of Jacob, the blessings of what they say his name is Israel, but either way, into the blessing of the children of Israel, you will keep the law. There is no other way. There is no Jesus, no Yahweh Shai, no Husha that can change what the Most High have said. He is null and void. I've often say that the New Testament shouldn't be in the same book as the historical teachings of the children of Israel, because it is not. It has been so misaligned, so misquoted, and so blasphemed that it's just not the book for us. No, it's not. Some of you, I know many of you will not, because your mind is still based on Christianity. And many of you, if anything, you'll come closer to what Most High is saying just by going to Islam, if you're going to be that stubborn. But the fact is, God has a way, and his way is not grievous. He doesn't restrict you in nothing that you do. He just guides you, and that's what his law is about, guiding you to living a productive and fruitful life. Yes. Now, we're in Exodus chapter 23. Exodus chapter 23 and verse 1. We ended in fact chapter 22, and he said, you're going to be holy. Holy means clean, in so many words. Clean. Clean, reverence. It's an English word. It's going to always be some ambiguity there. Yes, it is. He says, thou shalt not raise a false report. Put not thine hand with the wicked to be an unrighteous witness. This is a law. Don't do it. Is what he's saying to the children of Jacob and those who are strangers who have joined themselves to Jacob. One law. Now, the sentence for all of these things are found in the book of Leviticus, and some of them throughout the different books that Moses have reissued. God have reissued the law to Moses to give to Israel. The law was already there. It somehow got lost in Egypt when the children of the Most High were in Egypt, because Noah had carried the books over from that was written of him from Methuselah and his other fathers, that God had reiterated to them what they should do. Else, why would they even see in the book of Enoch or the book of Jubilees and Jasher about the commandments of the Most High? That was before Egypt was even thought of, even its conception. Yes, man wrote the book, but who wrote the Egyptian hieroglyphs? Who wrote all the books and hieroglyphs and stone writings that we have? Who wrote them? Who the one give you these lying measures of time, saying, oh, this is the right one? Because your mind has been so messed up. Man can lie. We can lie on stone as well as on papyrus as well as on paper. Yes, he can. The fact is, the proof is in the pudding. And yes, there is proof that there are graves. If you would go to the true Bethlehem near Jebus, which is called Tel Arad right now, that you see is Jerusalem is not Jerusalem. That's made up. But the whole land is Israel. Verse 2. Thou shalt not follow a multitude to do evil. In other words, to steal, to break in. You can say just like Chicago, how they all, or some other parts, not just only Chicago, where they all broke into a mall or a store and everybody just decided they're gonna take everything and run out. Or they see someone looting somewhere and they gonna steal it, they're gonna take it. Or see a man with plenty of money or think he has plenty of money and hurt him and try to take everything he has. Following a crowd to do evil. Evil is that which is contrary to the person or even yourself. Evil is that which is contrary to the law of the Most High also. You can be evil to the evil. It's something else. It's a play of words. But it still means the same thing. Now, neither shalt thou countenance a poor in his cause. In other words, you're not gonna pay special favors to a poor man because he's poor. If he has done a crime, if he has done anything, no, he's going to be treated as well as the rich or as red as the middle or whatever. In other words, one law, regardless of your status, stature, or status, however you want to put it. If thou meet thine enemy's ox or his ass going astray, thou shalt surely bring it back to him again. In other words, common courtesy. God is just pushing these things. Now, these are the things what we sacrifice for because we have had an evil heart. You don't take somebody's ox. This was their money at that time. This was their food at that time. If you see their money laying on the ground, that's the same as his ox or his ass or whatever you want to call it. It's his money. Oh, I found putting this in my pocket. Yeah, you put it in your pocket and wait for somebody to claim it or find out if anybody claimed any money. Now, thou shalt surely bring it back to him again. This is what God charged to you, the child of Jacob, even those of you that have joined yourself unto Jacob. Now, if thou see an ass of him that hateth thee, for many, we already know what that is. Lying under his burden and wouldest forbear to help him, thou shalt surely help with him. God is saying, hey, help him out. It's a part of loving. The law is love. Love is the law. That's about it. If you want to put it that way, if you want to walk down the way they try to twist what the law is in the New Testament. Now, if thou see an ass of him that hateth thee. Now we know, especially those of you in countries where you know people of a different hue and some of your own even hate you. So if you see this car is down, help him out. In other words, you have to take these things that back then and supplement them to what does it pertain to now. The law is never passed. This thing shall stand forever. As long as Israel is a nation, and that shall be forever, period. Thou shalt not rest the judgment of the poor in his cause. Again, just because he's a poor, don't try to, in other words, don't give him special favors is what God is saying. You're wrestling the law because a man is poor. Oh, you see how the judges do. It's not, they're not even going for the poor. They're going for the boy or the little girl looks like them, or from the same village or the same hue or whatever, or there are different prejudices and bigotry, or he just need a new start. He had a bad start. He don't have no money, so he had to do what he did. No. A poor, whether you're rich or poor, you have no cause to kill, steal, or destroy. You have no cause. Keep thee far from a false matter. Again, thou shalt not bear false witness. Thou shalt not lie. This is what it is. You put this under that category. In verse 1, there's a 1, and then here it is again. Verse 7, thou shalt not what? Lie. He says, this is what he's saying. This is what it falls under. He's giving you definition of why he says what he says. Or definitions of an example of what he says. Keep you from a false matter. If you know it's a lie and it's not true, get away from it. That's what he's saying. The innocent and the righteous slay thou not. Now he goes even further. You know this man did not rape that woman. You know this man did not kill that child. You know this man did, you was witness there, but yet the crowd was, oh, yes he did, yes he did. It's back in the days in the U.S. of slavery when they used to make up things to destroy the innocent and righteous people because of their own jealousy. Think about it. God is going to judge even nations according to this here. This is the measure of how you love each other. How mankind love mankind. But the other mankind, he's not governed by he doesn't govern himself by this law. But the child that cometh to God through the name of Israel or Jacob has no other choice but to go by this law. Let's continue. He says, keep thee far from the innocent and righteous slay thou not, for I will not justify the wicked. It's wickedness to do the things that have been done to the children of Jacob just out of pure jealousy and hatred. Verse 7, and thou shalt take no gift, in other words, bribe. For the bribe blindeth the wise and perverteth the words of the righteous. You have bribery in many ways. You have gangsters that have sell drugs or whatever. It should be back in the days, prostitutions, before they made themselves corporations. And you say, oh, why does a certain hue of a man doesn't have a college degree? If you go back to these corporations, you're going to find out many of them never had a college degree, but they will hire you with a college degree. Does it take a college degree to be successful? No. Will it help? Yes. He said, keep thee far from a false matter, and the innocent slay thou not, for I will not. This is God talking. He's quoting God. Justify the wicked. Thou shalt take no gift. A gift blindeth the wise. In other words, what you know to be right, what you know that works and is true. Whether it's in an invention, somebody bribe you. You see many things that fail, that people's lives count on. Machines and in hospitals and food safety. Somebody gives a bribe. They give the bribe to the USDA. And to overlook their passing up certain processes into making food safe or whatever. Or any, should I say, the UL, Underwriters Laboratory, to make sure that their product pass. They give them a bribe. But you and your wisdom know this thing is not safe, it's not right, it's going to kill someone, it's going to hurt someone, it's going to cause them long-term illness. This is what God is talking about. He's not just getting on the surface. Some of you are just, I don't know. You're just right on the surface, not thinking to take these things and make them fit the time that you're in. It's the same thing. These people are just farmers. And this is what he likened it to. And this is another thing he says right here. Seeing you were strangers in the land. He said, 6 years shalt thou sow thy land, and shalt gather in fruits thereof. But the 7th year thou shalt let it rest and lie still, that the poor of thy people may eat. In other words, those perennial plants that you have out in that's grown in your fields and crops. Pecans and whatever. The 7th year, if the pecans come on your tree, let people come on your land and get it. As long as they don't throw trash all over the place, you have to watch. You can allow them only to get so much. Come on, get some pecans, get some apples, get some oranges on that 7th day. And he says what he will do. He's going to increase your harvest the year before. He's going to increase that harvest, but the heathen will not do this. Christians are not going to do this either because the law is passed for them. Certain parts of the law that has not to do with money. And then certain parts that has to do with money is shunned, like this one. But the 7th year thou shalt let it rest lie still, that the poor of thy people may eat, and what they leave the beasts of the field shall eat. In like manner thou shalt deal with thy vineyard and with thy olive yard. In other words, come on, get you some olives, get you some grapes, or whatever. Verse 12, in 6 days thou shalt do thy work, and on the 7th day shalt rest. We rest, that then the ox and the ass may rest, and thy son and thy handmaid, and the stranger might be refreshed. In other words, he said, take it easy, relax. It's a day of rest. You've been laboring all week long, the lunar week. But we only practice this lunar because one day it's going to come to pass where these things will come to pass. And now we're in a land of captivity. You're a prisoner of war. A land of captivity. Whether you be Israel or whether you be a stranger that has decided that they will go the way of Israel, that Israel should go. Now, corporations want to work 24/7. You're working 24/7 to try to get somebody to buy crypto. You're trying to run 24/7 to get somebody to buy insurance. Since these manufacturing jobs are no longer here, they may not never be here, only to a certain degree. But the fact is, you're steadily working, trying to get that person that's laboring to buy what you have to offer. Oh, I'm not working, I'm just doing this. You're straining your brain over those things that are not of the Most High. You're still buying and selling. You sure are. You're doing the same thing. He says now, 6 days, do your work. Buy and sell on 6 days. And on the 7th day thou shalt rest. Till your crops, de-weed your garden or whatever. But on the 7th day, leave it alone. Leave your ox alone. Let him get out there and get fat or whatever he gonna do. Your donkey, and this word it says ass. It's not a bad word. It's just the way people have taken words and made them mean what they wanted to mean. And the son of thy handmaid and the stranger maid. In other words, even those who have your employees is what he's saying. They're not slaves. See, this is a word. Slavery is a word play. Yes, there are some who are slaves, they work, and they're not a slave. According to the definition, should be those who work without compensation, are forced to work without compensation. Now, an employee or an indentured servant, they are, whether the compensation is somewhere in the future or it's weekly, monthly, or daily, they are employees, period. They don't need to work on the 7th day. Let them rest. Let it go in your honor toward God. In all things I have said unto you, be circumspect, and make no mention of the names of other gods, neither let it be heard out of thy mouth. Another commandment. Yes, we read about them, we talk about them. Be circumspect. Be wise in this thing. Don't. If you're gonna, for educational purposes only, God understands that. To let you know that you do not worship these type of entities. Now, we're gonna hit the last but not least of our reading of the law today. He says, now, don't do this of other gods. They really are not. They're just dumb idols that were infiltrated into the minds of men by devils. 14, 3 times thou shalt keep a feast unto me in the year. He's not talking about, should I say, Halloween, Christmas, and your Easter. He's not talking about that. 3 times a year, a feast unto me. Thou shalt keep the feast of unleavened bread. Yes, okay. That's 7 days before the Passover, feast of unleavened bread. Thou shalt eat unleavened bread 7 days as I commanded thee in the time appointed of the month of Abib. In other words, the month of Abib should be about now, according to the natural way of things, or should I say, the solar calendar. The calendar, the way the moon and stars and the sun were created to work, not by appointment of man. This set day No, it's not on a set day. Now, the new year started last week, the Feast of Unleavened Bread, and now he said, thou shalt eat bread 7 days as I command thee in the time appointed in the month of Abib. For in it thou hast came out from Egypt, and none shall appear before me empty. So the Feast of Unleavened Bread is saying, hey, I believe God that he has delivered Israel and given them that land. And he delivered them out of the land of Egypt. Yes. Paganistic and sadistic and everything else they were. They won't tell you that it's not even written in this Bible that they were. But if you read the history of Israel and you read of their book of the dead and their book of life and all these other things that they did, even God in the 20th chapter here says what? He says, thou shalt not do after the Egyptians. That's what he said. So apparently there was something God did not like about them. And then you hear a person that says, why did God lead? He took them out of Egypt. You got people who are directed by devils to contradict God, to make him look foolish, to make your confidence in the Most High even appear foolish. These devils are smart. The reason God hardened Pharaoh's heart. Pharaoh was already bent on idolatry. Egypt was already bent on that. And in the book of Jasher, God even told the other entities, you go ahead and take them. I am taking Abram. Because they wasn't following the Most High anyway. And so he took Abram and he had a plan for them. Period. But these people listen to the Christian way of doing things. Fictitious. This way of witchcraft. Yes, you go to these churches and find out a lot of these healings and the people are actually being demonically possessed or laying on the floor and feel a chill in their spine. Even the demon possessed feel that stuff. And some of them even allow demons in them. Oh, that's the Holy Spirit. No, the Holy Spirit is the life you live if you're going to have a spirit of holiness. There is no spirit that is holy but that which has created all things, and that was that spirit that moved upon the water, even the I am that I am, according as he told Moses. I don't care what else you call him, but still it's I am that I am have sent you, is what he said to Moses. Now, he says, now these are the feasts. For thou camest out of Egypt, and none shall appear before me empty. In other words, you're going to have bread, you're going to have sacrifices, you're going to have everything. He said the Feast of Harvest. In other words, in the Feast of Harvest is where you do your wave offering. That's found in the book of Leviticus. The first fruits of thy labor which thou hast sown in the field, thou shalt, and feast of ingathering, which is the end of the year, which thou hast gathered in thy labors out of the field. 3 times in a year all thy males shall appear before the I am. Yes. In other words, they're going to be there in the congregation, and God, your firstborn, your secondborn, all your males. Why do God wants the males? We get into that one day. He says, now, thou shalt not offer the blood of my sacrifice with leavened bread. Now, there is a point where God allows leavened bread to be eaten on a holy day, but this is not one of them. Neither shalt thou eat the fat of my sacrifice neither shall the fat of my sacrifice remain until morning. In other words, you're going to burn that fat, is what he's saying. The first of the first fruits of thy land shalt thou bring in the house of the I am. Your churches is not the house of the I am. There is no house of the I am. If you do, you go to Tellerad. You talk to the brothers and sisters over there that are using the broken down temple until it comes. They're there. And thou shalt not see the kid in his mother's milk. Why are you going to take a goat and boil him in his mother's milk? This was a practice, apparently, of Egypt. Behold, I send an angel before thee to keep thee in the way. We're going to skip over that. And he says now that's not the law at that time. He says now, the same thing in verse 24, and then we're going to end it. He says, thou shalt not bow down to their gods nor serve them. He's talking about who? The heathen, the Canaanites, your Jesus, your Marys, your different devil-looking idols that you have that were instituted by devils. Your Hawashai, this black devil that they put up there and with the crown on his head with the fat nose and black, trying to denote how Jesus was black and the white Jesus. Oh, you gonna still be an idolater for an idolater? Please, get out of here. But either way, he said, ye shall serve the I am your God, and he shall bless thy bread and thy water, and I will take sickness away from the midst of thee. In other words, you shall have good success if you would meditate and do what is contained in the law. And with that, we're going to say peace.